And joining me in the studio is our International Affairs Editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, why is it that Macron's comments on Taiwan have created such a stir?
Yes, so this was an interview with Les Echos in French and Politico, and he did the interview on the plane back from his trip to China. And for a number of reasons, it's caused a stir. He said, as we quoted there, that Europe should be careful not to be a follower. He talked about following Washington's rhythm and China's perhaps overreaction. It's not clear. Those are, on one level, quite anodyne statements. He's not necessarily talking about a war or military action. He's talking about diplomatic spats and reactions to them. So on one level, it's very anodyne. Both sides have said, Washington has said, we have terrific bilateral relationship with France, and France the same thing. On one level, nothing very much has happened. That said, the timing is very awkward. Macron was just about out of Chinese airspace and out of China before China launched Beijing launched its military exercises encircling Taiwan, which, of course, Beijing maintains is an inseparable part of Chinese territory. And so Macron on the plane and those military exercises beginning very shortly after he left, that is rather difficult timing. Also, of course, very many Eastern European countries were annoyed that, again, we have Emmanuel Macron speaking out. Unclear whether he's speaking for France or Europe. Sometimes in this case he talked about Europe. They are only too aware of the staunch backing of Washington over the threat that they feel from Russia's invasion to Ukraine, Poland on the border with Ukraine. Other countries, they are only too well aware of Washington's backing, and this is unwelcome timing. The French also came back with some contracts from China, and there was a feeling that the tone wasn't right, that he almost suggested that should China try by force to make Taiwan it's part of its inseparable territory, then there would be equal fault on both sides of Washington. It didn't look good. Sometimes Macron does this to push a debate to the front. We don't quite know why this time.
So what are we expecting him to say today in the Netherlands?
He has talked a lot and for some time about strategic autonomy in Europe, and it's very important to him to talk about not just defence but also economic autonomy within Europe. It is the case that NATO has proved, we only have to ask the Finns, vital in terms of defence autonomy. But the Europeans have been very worried by the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States, which is slightly misnamed in that broadly it's about massively subsidising their economy and particularly environmental businesses. And Europe is very worried that it will lead to an exodus of businesses to the United States. And broadly, the United States has said, well, we're looking after our economy, you look after yours. So there's a keen feeling that Europe must make itself as independent as possible and make itself a third pole within the world. This response of Macron about not following the US, not being a follower in any Taiwan, Washington, Beijing spat, it came after a question. He was asked, is Europe a chess piece between two world blocs? And that is exactly his point. He doesn't want Europe to be a chess piece. He wants Europe to have time to build up defence. That's going to take an awful long time. And also economic and energy autonomy. It may be that Europe calculates that anything happening in Taiwan is extremely important to Europe because Taiwan produces 90% of the world's most sophisticated semiconductors, 60% of all semiconductors. That is not an industry that's easily developed somewhere else. And so what happens in Taiwan is likely to impact the world economy in every way.
Finally and briefly, how important is the Netherlands to France?
This is a relationship which they're both keen to nurture. The Netherlands was often an ally of the United Kingdom before Brexit, and in some senses visualises issues in Europe in the same way as France. They're both similar. Rutte, the Prime Minister of Holland, and Macron are both centre-right. There's a bit of a personal relationship there, and it's in both of their interests to really nurture this. They will be signing pacts on defence and, again, semiconductors and and energy, and it's in both their interests to beef up that relationship.
Thank you very much, Angela Diffley.